a follow-up to Kristine's question on the coronavirus. Not long ago, Dennis Venom, a fellow biologist and BioLogos voice, as you are, quipped on his Facebook page that the coronavirus might be the first time that Christian science denial has cost lives. A peer of his corrected him and said, well, that might be true in the short term, but in the long term, it might be the denial of climate science. So my question for you, Joel, is you'd like to be writing about other things, but you're writing about Christian science denial in a sense. And the idea of it costing lives is important, but I'd like to focus on the idea of it costing testimony and maybe becoming an obstacle to actually offering the gospel to a world that might be more open to it if we weren't carrying this baggage into the conversation. How would you, and I know you seemed pessimistic on it earlier in our discussion, but how would you advise others who find this science denial to be such an affront to a world that needs to hear about Christ? What would you say going forward?
I'm glad you asked me that. I am very concerned. I've been very interested in science communication. I talk about it in my classes. I teach a general biology class, and I've told them I try to tell them how to think about science as a way of providing a way for assessing, what good information and bad information is. And I do absolutely see creation science, the denial of truth, of fake news, all these things kind of coming together to really erode our ability to trust anyone, right? It's all about ourselves. What's my gut feeling? What do I think is right? And young earth creationists will say, well, that's not really the case. We have the Bible, right? It tells us what's right. But there's also an arrogance in there that, okay, I can read my Bible and very quickly find out what's right. And then I can tell everybody else what they're supposed to believe. And I can deny everything. And I know the big picture. There's a lack of humility there. And that's one of my biggest concerns with our conversation, what Facebook looks like in terms of how we argue about masks or not masks. And all of this, I guess, shouldn't be a surprise that we're in this situation in this country, that we have spent the last decade or 2 decades eroding our ability to communicate with one another. And Christians in particular have developed this skin of knowing what's right and just telling other people what to believe without being a good listener. I think my big message is that we need to be able to listen first, and to understand other people's concerns, and to realize that we're not all just because I disagree with you, I'm not your enemy. And how can we come to some sort of agreement on anything? Well, we have to be able to discuss information, and we have to be able to agree what some truth is, that there is data that we can use to assess questions, and that we ought not to be afraid of that, because all truth is God's truth, and we need to be willing to put aside what we want to be true and accept that other people might have ideas as well as I am. And I have to do that too. I have to be willing to listen. And that's the most important thing that I think that I try to do, is I try to hear what other people are saying. Let them tell me what their concerns are so that I can find a way to address those, versus just, I know what the truth is, and this is what you have to believe, right? No pastor is going to be successful if, yes, they have some truth in them. They're supposed to be preaching the truth and preaching the word, and they should bring it strong when they need to. On the other hand, if they can't listen and find out where their congregation is and what their concerns are, they're never really going to be able to communicate with them.